Speaking during the Socio-Economic Indices Training Workshop held at ZIPAM, Permanent Secretary for Provincial Affairs and Devolution Engineer Muguti emphasized the critical role of continuous human capital development in driving Zimbabwe's economic transformation. Engineer Muguti noted that professional growth does not end at graduation, highlighting the need for ongoing specialization in fields such as medicine, engineering and technology to keep pace with global advancements. He said true human capital development goes beyond acquiring qualifications and involves continuous research, innovation and skills enhancement among citizens. The Permanent Secretary challenged institutions of higher learning to shift from basic product exhibitions towards the development of advanced technologies capable of transforming industries. He stressed that genuine innovation will be achieved when Zimbabwean universities design and manufacture industrial machineries powered by robotics and artificial intelligence, reducing dependence on imported technologies. Engineer Muguti said investing in knowledge, research and technological innovation is key to building competitive, industrialized and self-sustained economy. This is his full speech.
Looking for professional home care support for your loved ones? At Sheltering Arms Community Care, we provide compassionate care for the elderly, people living with disabilities, and those needing mental health support. Our services include home care, live-in care, hospital assistance, respite care, medication management, and life skills development. We also offer an alcohol and drug rehabilitation facility, helping you live independently with dignity and confidence. Visit us at Falcon Estate, Teen World Harare, or call us or visit our website on the information displayed. Sheltering Arms Community Care, fostering independence, improving lives.
Let me also appreciate this great opportunity and the patience that you have demonstrated waiting for me so that I can come and officially open our training program for Provincial Socio-Economic Indices Training Workshop. Apart from that, let me also emphasize that the workshop is long overdue, but it's better to be late than never. And so what we are doing today, ladies and gentlemen, in this room is we are creating and making history. And we're making history together because we are trying to ensure that the legacy that is being built by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, is measurable. 2 weeks ago, we were saying to Minister Mtulingwe that we believe that if we have more information in the provinces, more investors are going to come because the economy has to speak for itself. I remain on my notion that Zimbabwe's GDP is understated. The 49 billion we are witnessing is not the real GDP of this country. And I believe that what we are going to be doing during this week is to create a strategy, create a platform, create a structure in which we can truly recognize the true GDP of Zimbabwe. In my own calculations, Zimbabwe's GDP is 3 times what we have announced. Because if you look at where we get our statistics, it comes up to 25 to 30% of the economy. The rest of your brothers and sisters who've got restaurants, who've got garages, who've got small schools, who've got all those other businesses, cannot be accounted for, and they are not even accounted for. So the journey that we are starting, colleagues, is very important. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin first by highlighting that Zimbabwe's development agenda is now increasingly more than ever driven by data, evidence, and measurable outcomes. It is therefore important to note that the implementation of the devolution and decentralization agenda under Chapter 14 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe requires stronger provincial economic planning, monitoring, and systems to be put in place. The Public Service Commission has facilitated for us to have provincial economists who are in the form of the Director, Economic Affairs and Investment. We also have economists who are also called the Deputy Director, Economic Analysis. So the provinces now have economists. We are also going to extend this training to the district economists who have been brought in by the Ministry of Local Government. But as it is, you are the drivers of the provincial economic agenda. So in most cases, we expect you after this training to be able to then go and guide those at district level and local level of how we want to be able to consolidate and populate this data. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic indices that have become indispensable tools for effective governance and informed decision is what has led us to develop this manual, the Provincial Socio-Economic Performance Analysis. The Provincial Socio-Economic Performance Analysis Framework. Within the framework, we've got 7 indices, which are going to guide us as we go across in terms of developing a good structure. So why do these indices matter? They're essential, firstly, for policy formulation. As it is currently, if we're not clear about what is our GDP, it is impossible for any province to come up with a provincial economic development plan. The indices form a basis, they form a baseline for the conversations on economic development to begin. We cannot afford then to be able to provide guesswork when we're trying to drive the economic development agenda of a country. They also help in terms of resource allocation. They guide us in terms of which areas really need to be assisted on. Situations like having, for the very first time, the Provincial Poverty Index. It helps us because we can be able to tell that the correlation between the provincial GDP and the poverty index remains that which is equitable to our people, that is measurable, and something that we know resources can be placed in empowerment rather than in sustenance of poverty. So when we started this journey, the UNDP said it cannot be measured. They said no one has come across with a provincial or a national poverty index. They can have statistics on poverty, but they are yet to see, as the UNDP, a true accurate measurement of poverty index. Ladies and gentlemen, as Zimbabweans, we did it. We have this formula, and this is the formula which we're going to use to measure poverty. We've now said you can borrow it and go use it in other countries. A round of applause that we actually managed to come up with that index. In terms of monitoring, evaluation, and learning, one of the conversations we keep having with our monitoring, evaluation, and learning colleagues is that you can only monitor that which you understand. You cannot take a mere person like me to go and monitor how doctors are doing tumor procedures and chemotherapy when I'm not a doctor. So we need to start also empowering our monitoring teams, that whatever they are monitoring, there's a level of technical appreciation of what provinces really do. Provincial governments, in their very nature, are tasked with measuring service delivery. And when we talk about service delivery, the main thing that people think about is the service delivery of collecting bins, sewer, water, roads. No, service delivery is any government service, be it economic, be it security, be it developmental, be it social. It's the delivery of any government service. And the indices help us to see if the system is working. So I'll start off first, besides the provincial GDP. You do have the provincial production index. Every province is known for something. And we are tasking you, the provinces, to go and appreciate what you're known for. As of right now, whenever I see Bulawayo provinces, they are reporting on the manufacturing, that small percentage, which has started and growing. So right now, you've seen us go to Edgar's. It was through the invitation of Secretary Nyoni. And when we went there, we understood what they needed, presented it to His Excellency, and he was so excited with the growth that from 2017, Edgar's had 34 employees. Less than 5 stores were left. As of today, we're now going to 2,000 employees from 2017. And Edgar's is now over 35 stores in the country. And that is starting from a provincial government that understands what they are known for. So right now, Edgar's is now making 4,000 to 7,000 clothing units, which are being made by Edgar's on a daily basis. It's now one of the largest clothing factories on the continent. We're even exporting now to South Africa. The same Edgar's shareholders who left us are now saying, can you do this other clothing for us? Besides that, Edgar's is now employing another 1,500 indirect people. Tailors who are now making clothes for Edgar's from the comfort of their own factories. It started from them understanding what do they need to unlock the economy. So tomorrow we now know that in terms of the production index, it's measurable because there are certain industries. If you look today in Harare Metropolitan Province, Capri is alive and well. And the other day, I took Mr. Gary Watson to go and meet His Excellency and present a 100% made Capri fridge. When I say 100, is everything there, to the plastic, to the rubber, is now made in Zimbabwe. And Capri, from having to import fridges, Capri is now making well over 500 fridges a day. 500 fridges a day. And that is happening right here in Zimbabwe. But you see, we are not measuring that growth. Because if we centralize statistics, we centralize economic analysis, then we do not know the true picture or the true impact of what really we are achieving as a country. So as it is today, I'm happy to say that the production index is now there. You're going to be trained on it. And the production index will allow you to now go further. The director's economic analysis, to go and find out what is it that is making the province tick. We said, let's go a step further. We said we want to go and measure the provincial employment index. I don't believe in calculating death, I believe in calculating birth. You see, Zimbabwe today, we are one country which has the largest reinsurance for funeral cover and the lowest for health cover. Because we are so good at analyzing the bad statistics. We've gone through such turbulent times economic-wise that everything we read were negative statistics, especially from foreign media. And our journalists and even our scholars now believe that true research data is providing the negative and not the positive. No, true research data is unlocking the potential of Zimbabwe. So if we start saying, let's calculate the employment index, what we're simply saying is that it starts telling the story of how many jobs, how many lives we are transforming at provincial government level. The nation is the province. I always argue that there's nothing which can be called a national project. Because at some point, it's in a province. At some point, it's in a district. At some point, it's in a local authority. At some point, it's in a ward. And worst of all, it can be in a village. So when it comes to matter, we need to then know each job, how many jobs were created. Today, I hear crazy statistics about how many balls have been drilled in the provinces. But when I ask the provincial secretaries, they don't know about those statistics. I hear today about how many village business units we've created. But if I say how many jobs have VBUs created, can anyone in here answer us? Nobody. Because we do not understand that when you measure employment, you are accounting for your GDP. You are formalizing the sector. You are formalizing your statistics, and they become factual. Going further, we also then said when these people come, they want skills. So we said, let's measure the Provincial Human Capital Development Index. It's one thing for us to say, we have this Lupane University. It's one thing for us to say we take pride in Great Zimbabwe University or University of Zimbabwe in Harare. But the bottom line, are we tracking as provinces that we had 3,000 graduates across all the tertiary institutions? Are we tracing where are they? 2 years later, where are they? 10 years later, where are they? Human capital development, ladies and gentlemen, is not about the training. It's not about the capacitation. It's about the full value chain of empowering a human being. From grade 0 to the day when they have their family, to the day they go to meet the Lord. That's human capital development. Human capital development is ensuring that even the engineer continues to get refreshed as technology changes. Human capital development is making sure that our medical graduates continue to specialize in neurology and other sectors, even though they would have graduated at a certain tier. Human capital development is research and development in our people. Today, We've got universities, whenever we go around, exhibiting peanut butter and Masao jam. And we are calling it innovation. No, that's us regressing. The day we stop importing machinery for industrial use in our factories from China, from Germany, from Italy, and that machinery is designed, it is developed, robotics empowered, AI empowered at our universities, then that's innovation. That's human capital development. And the job is not for our universities to go and then compete with industry. No. The job is for our universities to then come up with patents. Today, most of the technology that you are seeing, even military grade, is patented by MIT, Harvard, Yale, Cambridge. Human capital development is the ability for you provincial governments to be able to do research and development. How do we go further? To date, coal provides over 12 products can come out of coal. Are you aware that today the diamond prices in the world have gone down because they're now making fake diamonds from coal? And today we are sitting saying, no, we don't want our lithium to go out. But already in Germany, they've found, and in China, they found now another material to replace lithium. They've already found that. And so before you know it, you're going to be sitting with a resource, thinking I'm the one who's got the beautiful bride, but there are other brides out there. So we went a step further and said today we have a challenge. When we say tourism, the African mind, what you start thinking when you talk of tourism, you think of Arungu. That is the African mind. The African mind does not believe that when you leave Bulawayo to come to Harare, you're a tourist. Once, no, you means you're a tourist. That's what we say. Then the other day I was in Comrade Jaji's province, just down the road there. I'm not scared by my weekends, Comrade Jaji. And the statistics tell us that between a Friday and a Sunday, there was 3,000 people. People are coming as far as Marondera, Chitungwiza, Chegutu, some is far as Gweru, to come and enjoy themselves there with their families. We don't know if they are all officially married couples, but they are there. They are there. So we've seen that per 25 Paya, they are hosting more tourists than Rainbow Towers. More tourists than Cresta. More tourists than ever. And no one is recording those statistics. Can you imagine if there are 3,000 people? What is the volume of transactions which are there? To those of you who do buying and selling, there's a place called Kariakor. And I worked in Tanzania. And Kariakor records $10 million worth of transactions a week. 10 million US dollars worth of transactions. And based on that data, more suppliers want to have business interests in Kariakor. The largest place where Comoros, Zimbabwe, DRC, Zambia, Malawi, that's where they go get Masutu, Yembe, all those things. What about our economies? What about our tourism? So we said, let's start measuring the provincial tourism index. Recently, Zimbabwe was granted the opportunity to then host the Africa Free Trade Conference in Company. So what is going to happen is that the Africa Free Trade Agreement, there's going to be all the countries in Africa will be coming to do their trade fairs in Zimbabwe from 2027. Already the center is here. Then we're given a task that we needed to raise about 15,000 beds. Between 15,000 and 18,000 beds. When we're saying beds, we are measuring the capacity of how many people can sleep at a lodge or sleep at a hotel. Then they said excluding lodges. We found ourselves around 6,000, 7,000. And we have to build hotels in Harare, because that's where the conferencing is going to be. And every capital city needs to have those indexes. So when they tell you that, it means 15,000 people could be flooding Harare. But when they are here, they're not just going to end at rain or whatever. They don't want to go and explore. Are we ready to be able to measure that? Are we measuring right now people who are coming from one province to the other? They are visitors, they are tourists. What is the definition of tourism? They are all about foreign direct investment. Are you aware that that school down the road is an investment in your province, which was built recently? Are you aware that the amount of houses we are seeing being built with tiles looking beautiful, that's investment? Are you aware that the local supermarket that was built from scratch is an investment? How do you define an investor? How then do we find an investor? So we need to start tracking that investment. Apart from that, we went further and said we want to then look and say the infrastructure index. And colleagues, this is the beginning. Our office has a vision of launching 23 indexes. So this is phase one. The beauty about it is that we have now received, we've just negotiated with the Commonwealth. And I'm happy to say as of 3 weeks ago, we did a mutual agreement that we are now going to computerize this system to come up with this digitally. And so we've secured preliminary funding for this. Colleagues, I continue to reiterate and reinforce the principle that what gets measured gets done. But when it comes to economics, what gets measured gets managed. You can stop inflation if you are tracking it. If you are not tracking inflation, you wake up and, Tama billionaires again. We need to measure it. So constantly, there are certain conversations that we need to start having as the 3 tiers of government. Apart from that, colleagues, the growing importance of provincial economies under the devolution agenda is now what is driving all of us, that we don't have the time anymore and the luxury to wait and just guess what the economy is looking like. And I reiterate that the role of provincial governments in the context of devolution is not to manage events. That's not your duty. Your duty is to be able to transform lives. Your duty is to be able to create jobs. Your duty is to be able to end poverty. Your duty is to be able to develop infrastructure. Your duty is to be able to make sure that there's a social cohesion between the government and the people. Your duty is therefore to ensure that when it comes to the crunch, you are running a country. Because you are a tier of government. So colleagues, the provincial authorities that you are require credible data. You need to identify comparative advantages. That's the first thing you need to understand. A province that does not know its comparative advantages will not find any usefulness of indices. You need to know what's my comparative advantage and how then do I develop myself. You'll notice that your provincial economic development plan will mean nothing if we cannot measure the impact of your plan. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we then need to ensure that we continuously explain to one another that economic indices empower provinces to make informed decisions and that respond to, most importantly, local development. Now, one thing that you'll notice, devolution is the principle of releasing authority downwards and bringing accountability upwards. So, all the indices, the data is already there. Let me give you as an example. If I want to measure the GDP of your province, every single business in your province has got a business permit. Every one of them. So creating a database of companies which are operating in your province is as easy as this. And being able to get data to work with ZIMRA, to work with ZimStats becomes easier. The challenge is that when we centralize economic analysis and don't talk to the other tiers of government, we pick those who are visible, the deltas, the econets, the national foods. But we've got 200 small companies which have combined, have got the same capacity as those conglomerates, but we don't measure it. But because they are operating within the local economy, it is easier for you to get that data. Transparency, accountability, and public confidence is important in the state institutions. Economic indicators therefore provide benchmarks for measuring progress. One of the things that you will see we are encouraging is the State of the Nation address, right? To be replicated in provinces as State of the Province address. It is very important that the people within your provinces appreciate that when we want to know what was the GDP of Bulawayo, it is when the minister and the PS tell us these are the stats. Because of the authority that your office has, investors will believe it. Economic analysts operating around the world will believe it. Investment confidence will grow. Today we're having investment workshops, we're having investment conferences, but Zimbabwe itself remains unbankable because of the non-availability of raw data or non-availability of localized data. We find ourselves with national statistics. And I always ask to say, if our GDP is 49 billion, what is Masvingo? And I always ask that if our employment index is such amount, what is Bulawayo's? So the manner in which we've been collecting data, that's why I said let's applaud the DG for Zimstat, because she has brought in a different dimension of thinking in a devolved manner. Government, ladies and gentlemen, remains committed to transparency and accountability. So our transparency and accountability starts today. But most of all, we can only be transparent and have accountability if we build institutional capacity. I kept being asked, and I thought, to be honest, it was offending me each time certain people would ask me, Guti, you're talking about provincial GDPs, you're talking about provincial economies. The question is there capacity in the provinces? Then and I said, the question is not about the capacity. The question is, do you believe in the provinces? That's the beginning. Do you believe in the structure which is there? Because if you don't believe in the structure, even if I tell you there's capacity, you will not believe me. So do you believe in the provinces? So ladies and gentlemen, we have a point to prove that upon after we are done, we can be able to provide the first ever provincial decentralized economic data. Expectations from the participants is that I know you're all expectant to come out of here as professors in your own right. It's going to take time, but practicing is important. I think you were requested to bring some data. We don't want you to calculate with fake data. We asked you to bring your own data so that as we calculate these things, we'll be able to appreciate further. We want you to learn from the facilitators. Let this be an open platform. Ask questions. Amongst colleagues, there's never a dumb question. Last week my wife showed me this image, and it had the caption that a madman dancing never has relatives. Do you know what that means? Even if you start dancing, if you are my relatives, you clap for me. But success has many fathers. Failure is an orphan. What I'm trying to say is that you'll find many people who start believing in what we're starting here, my bandam, after we produce the results. For now, we have a lot of doubting Thomases. And I believe some of you are even doubting up to now. But let's give the facilitators a chance to change our mindset. Change does not start on paper. Change starts in the heart. And change starts with you believing that you can be the change. I believe that we have some of the best brains in our provinces. We have very sharp people in the provinces. Yeah, in other ministries, they believe that our province is a punishment. No, for me, I think it's a great opportunity. Where is the shortest route to become a secretary, so it's a good opportunity for all of you. Because if you go through the line ministries, there are like 10 chief directors in the ministry. But here, you've got direct engagement with investors, you've got direct engagement with society. Mukurana nyika. And believe me, most of our provinces are greater than Lesotho in Swaziland. So we need to be able to think outside the box. I want you to also challenge secretaries, the directors who have been trained, to cascade this training to district level and lower levels. So after this training, you are actually going to work now with your provincial stats directors in the provinces to actually set up now training workshops by yourselves, where you call in your district economists and the local economists, and then share with them to say, this is how we are now measuring. And there's data that is going to be computed, data which is collected, data which needs to be readily available. And then you start saying, for this, I need you to provide me these reports by such a time. You'd find by the end of the year, our target is for your reports coming from the provinces to report on the 7 indices when you give your reports on the 5th, so that we can be able to drive that. There's also a culture of continuous learning that we need. And one of the things that we have not done well, which we need to do, is we need to expose our economists to marketplace economists. There are a lot of workshops, there are a lot of conferences where generally economists meet and they discuss the economy. Since we don't involve them in that. So my office will work hard to ensure that we've done that. As it is currently this year, we have secured funding. Last week, we secured funding again, and we couldn't take 20 directors, but we're going to take 5 economic directors and 5 infrastructure planning directors to China for training. So that one you'll be getting letters. We've secured some preliminary funding. That one is a given within the 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter of this year. Then if we happen to get more funding, the other 5 and the other 5 go. And if we happen to get more funding, then the deputy directors go. As it is currently, secretaries, you were at the meeting last week. I think disbursed funds, we are all below 5%. So I think it's 2%. So it's pathetic, but I don't believe in crying. I believe in finding solutions, and we need to work hard to find those solutions. My closing message is therefore a call to action. Let's encourage the business communities. Let's encourage the social players in our provinces to take part in economic analysis, in social analysis. We are currently making amendments. Zimstat is making amendments. I'm sure we're making progress with that bill. Yes, we're making progress. Zimbabwe is going to change its laws that statistics is going to become involuntary. So right now it's a voluntary exercise. When it becomes involuntary, it becomes a crime. So we're busy changing that law. So you'd find that people will be forced to submit real data. And if it's falsified, it can be a crime which can take you to prison. Just like what South Africa has done. So we are hoping that we accelerate that bill so that we can be able to work around that. In terms of the quality of data and the sound analysis, it is important for you to understand that we have now short-circuited the statistics gathering and publishing level by including your tier. So we don't want falsified information. We need accurate data. Because what head office for Zimstat is going to do now is going to have more data coming. So that means their processing is going to be further. But you will see the impact because the results will then start showing. The results will start showing that even our GDP figures, our inflation figures, as data comes in, the results will start showing that we are providing more. So colleagues, I'm excited that I'm here with you today. Tomorrow, the sectors will be just here today and tomorrow. We can't have them here the whole week, so they'll leave tomorrow after lunch to go and run with other programs. But what is important is we have created a conducive environment for you to learn. I encourage you to learn, and I encourage you to be excited. This is not the work of us, it's the work of all of us. So let's ensure that we take ownership so that tomorrow we can be able to ensure we go far. Let me part with this. Devolution is a constitutional right to every Zimbabwean to see it, experience it, and enjoy it during their lifetime. And I've made this commitment before. I don't care whether people like it, whether they believe in it or not, but during our lifetime and during our tenure in office, we will deliver devolution to the people. And that's a promise. I thank you.
That's all for SMTV Business News. We will also give you the presentation made by the Permanent Secretary for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Engineer Muguti, which he made when he addressed a 2-day investment workshop at Baradzanwa in Mazowe. Look out for that video. Thank you for watching. I'm Sylvester Tafumane, and join us again for more updates on business, industry, and the economy.